Hi, everyone. I'm Madeline Di Nonno, President and CEO of the Geena Davis Institute on Gender and Media. With me is our esteemed ASL interpreter, Andrea Lust. I would also like to acknowledge that this meeting is being held on the traditional lands of the Nanacoke Lenni people in New Jersey, and I want to pay my respect to elders both past and present. We want to thank our longstanding partners at Disney Plus for this fabulous opportunity to host our chat today with the super talented cast of Big Shot, which premieres exclusively on Disney Plus on October 12th. And there are big changes are coming this season, and we are thrilled to hear more about what's in store with the new team dynamics, major changes at Westbrook, and some really big social themes such as mental health, inequalities between men and women's sports, LGBTQIA relationships, and many more. So first, before we get going, let's take a look at the trailer for season 2.
I can't believe that the summer is half over already.
At least we have a minute before anyone's ordering us around.
Hey, girls!
Well, it was fun while it lasted.
See that girl? This girl is gonna make my team better.
According to TMZ, she just bit Naomi Osaka.
I don't play with losers, and I never lose.
Life's a little more exciting in D2, isn't it? At the end of each day, I want you all to look in the mirror and ask yourself, did I do my very best today? Everything you guys do in this gym and out affects all of us. Where we're going is anything but normal.
Boys. There's boys. Here?
Stop me killing it. Want me on your team just a little bit.
So does this mean our school's co-ed? Like, for real? Do you have any idea how complicated this is about to get?
Heads up!
Hey! These boys have been here for 5 minutes. Already they think they can just walk all over us.
Who gave you permission to use my court?
Miss Thomas said we could use it.
I have to share my gym.
It's not your gym, it's my gym, and yes, you're gonna have to share it.
When the boys arrive, they're the priority.
They came into our school. It's not fair.
You know what I love? Is when he gets so upset that the little bang pops out and he starts stuttering.
I just want to prove that I'm still on the top of my game. Oh, you're teeing me up, huh? There's your story. I would give you a reason to be proud of me, that's all.
Dad, you've gone from being a villain to being a joke.
I will never give in to fear.
You don't always have to be the strong one.
Can't inspire anyone.
I know you're gonna find the words.
What you are as a person is more important than what you are as a player. You're scared, right?
Terrified.
I did not expect us to end up here tonight.
I did. Oh my.
You seem nice and cool, but also kind of scary.
Things will never be the same.
Wow.
Thank you.
Take a good look at each other. That's who we play for. That's who we can count on. Why are boys just the worst?
Right? That's what I was thinking. They just continue to rip my heart out.
Now I have the privilege of introducing the very talented cast members. Welcome in alphabetical order, as you are all my faves. Yvette Nicole Brown, who plays Sherilyn Thomas. Sara Echegaray, who plays Ava. Tiana Lee, who plays Destiny Winters. Sophia Mitri Schloss, who plays Emma Korn. Nell Verlaque, who plays Louise Gruzinski, and Cricket Wampler, who plays Samantha Fisher. Welcome, everyone. So what I'd like to do is first start with Sara, because you're kind of the newbie to the show. So can you talk about what it was like for you to come on to a show where there was already a season, there's all this bonding, whatever. What was it like for you to start on the show?
Yeah, of course. So coming into season 2, I was very nervous because there was already an established cast. I mean, season 1 already happened, and I watched the show and I was a huge fan of it. So coming in and being a part of season 2 and this amazing cast of women and of course John, I was so nervous because they are just figures that I always looked up to. And so I was like, I hope that they don't hate me. So I mean, coming into this, I'm kind of like the bully as we see in the trailer. So I was like, oh my gosh, what if it's the other way around behind the scenes? What if they're the ones bullying me? I don't know. I was coming up with like the weirdest scenarios, but when I met them for the first time at basketball camp, I was like, these are the most sweetest, amazing individuals that I've ever met. And they are like my second family now.
So for those who aren't familiar, but tell us about what happens at basketball camp, and that, oh my God, there's actually a basketball camp, and how long is that? And love to hear from all of you, any of you, about that.
Yeah, I mean, basketball camp was about a month long, I would say.
Wow.
So yeah, and so we had an incredible trainer, Keela Snowden, and she kind of gave us like the rundown. Of course, these women already knew what to do. I was coming in freshly. So Keela was very patient with us, but by the end of the month, we were throwing 3 shots like nothing. It was incredible.
So I'd love to hear from anybody else about basketball camp. And also, were any of you athletes? Had any of you played sports? Because the whole thing about women's sports is just such a big theme. So Tiana, Nell, Sophia, cricket, anybody?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about it. I grew up playing sports. My family's like super athletic. My brother played basketball, so I was always around basketball growing up, and then he switched to play football and he went to college for that. So when I got even the audition, I was like, oh my God, I get to play like a sport, I get to play basketball. I was so excited. And then the basketball training camp that we had in season 1 that Sara got a little taste of, but she got it taken easy on her because it was season 2. That is definitely where we bonded the most, I would say, as a cast. And then, I think for season 2 coming back, we were just so excited to be together again. And I think honestly that helped us bond with Sara too. It's just such a bonding experience because you're waking up at like 7 a.m. and you're just going and playing basketball for hours with your girls.
We're trauma bonding.
Yeah. Yes, but I think it was honestly, I mean, it's such a crucial part to, I think, building our chemistry for the season, and you see it in all the scenes, even off the court. And I think we all kind of honestly grew to love the basketball and grew to love just being a team that way.
Yes, I would agree. I also kind of have a basketball family, so I was familiar with it. And I played some sports growing up and tried basketball. It wasn't really my thing, but the writer said, give her another chance. So anyway, it's been fun to like re-get into, and I always love the sport, but the training really is what like helped bring us together, especially like Tiana said, season 1. But it's also kind of a lighter hearted way to get to know people right off the bat when you have to like blood, sweat, and tears it with them in the training.
So now, Sophia, yeah.
No, you go ahead.
I was not athletic. And I lied my way into the audition a while ago. And I'm still here, so thank God. But I was really happy to be thrown into it like we were. I think, like what everyone's saying, we definitely got much closer because of it. And having Sara come in and having those elements where she also would be trained separately and those sorts of things that mirrored what the actual show eventually had, it was nice to sort of add that dynamic to it, because I think it adds a lot of layers to the characters, and that's what we see on screen. So
yeah, I got a little bit of a taste of it the second season. I was not involved in the basketball scene at all in the first season, as would make sense because I didn't play in the first season. I played a little bit in the second season. So I did train pretty minimally, and it is a lot. I think it's honestly a testament to the writers and the creators of this show that they really cared that we knew what we were doing. They really cared that we knew about basketball, that it looked authentic, because I think a lot of times it's really easy to put doubles in, and it's understandable, like you have a limited amount of time and energy, but I think it was really very cool that was a priority for them. They really pushed authenticity, and as everyone said, I really think it helped everyone become closer. So I'm grateful for even a little taste of the experience.
It really shows. Yvette, I want to go to you, because when we think about, and this is to me a really big theme about the lack of support for women's sports, And there's so many aspects to it in the season in terms of, first, you have that crazy incident, which brings the boys to the school, which sets up a dynamic. Then you've got the boys team, the girls team. Then you just have the overall issue with the lack of support. So as, you know, the leader, having to juggle all this in your character, can you just talk us through this for everyone who hasn't seen season 2 yet?
Yeah, including me. I haven't seen it yet either. Listen, we know that women often get the short end of the stick, not just in sports, but in life. You know, we as a we're fighting to just be able to control our bodies and be able to go to the doctor and get health care without someone intervening. So we know that that's already a problem. We know that in sports, in women's sports, they often don't have the same weight rooms that the men have, and they don't have the same funding as the men have. And you know, we're looking at what happened with Brittany Griner and the fact that she had to take that job in Russia because she's not paid the same money that men are paid here. So we know that there's a disparity that exists for women. What I love about our show is that, especially in the first season, we celebrated these women not just as women, female athletes. We celebrated them as just athletes. In the same way, Serena Williams is not a great Black female tennis player. She's just a great athlete who happens to play tennis. You know what I'm saying? She would kill at whatever sport she chose to do because she's an athlete. So I think that our show is a great it levels the playing field in a lot of ways by showing these young women as just wonderful women that happen to use athleticism as part of the toolbox that they, or the paint palette that they paint with, right? And I love that we get to show that there is a disparity. You know, we've watched these girls for an entire season fight their way to a new division, and then the boys come and the boys get balloons and confetti, and you know, the court on certain days when they're not supposed to have the court. Like, it's all in there, and we don't shy away from it. And I think that's what's great about our show.
I agree. I love the smoke machines. It was like, woo, woo, back to the 70s. That was pretty fun. So I want to hear from everyone else. So you did your basketball camp, and then you're doing your table reads, and I don't know what came first. So you sit down to do the table read season 2. Were you all shocked by the introduction of boys and that whole change to Westbrook? I mean, did you just say like, what's going on here? Or what was your, and I want to hear from everybody. What was your thinking about that?
I think we had an inkling that there was going to be not only new characters, but like maybe the school kind of becoming co-ed towards like right the beginning of starting season 2, right? We were like initially getting scripts and initially getting like, you know, breakdowns for new characters who would be joining our cast. But I think, I mean, at least I was kind of surprised at how much boys we have. Like they become a crucial part to the storyline, not even in terms of, you know, what they themselves do, but kind of how they force us to act as a cast. And I think that the relationships that we kind of grow and the way that our relationships get tested with one another is definitely facilitated by them joining the storyline.
Definitely a giant dynamic shift. Yeah, I don't really remember my first thought when I found out more boys were coming. I know we kind of joked with the writers. We were like, if you want to bring more cute boys in, we'd love that next season. But they did. And so anyway, it was really fun to have them around, and they're great actors. And I agree with everything Tiana said.
I think also I was really excited to have the opportunity to sort of go head to head with them. And we got to do that in more ways than one. And I think it just brought a lot more to the page and then eventually to the screen, because we practiced with them, like we did everything with them. And it wasn't, you know, I understand maybe this sort of anticipation initially reading it, or fear that like the boys would somehow take away from the female stories that we were telling. But if anything, it just sort of enriched all of that. I mean, my character got to sort of experience her first real relationship and balancing that with work and her career and what she wants to do in her future. So I feel like it made the characters a lot more multifaceted, for sure.
Yeah, I think kind of adding on to what Nell was just talking about, I think when I first heard that was going to be a major storyline, I was excited, but I was also kind of, I was hesitant at first to get really excited about it, because I knew that there was a possibility that kind of become the center, like boys versus girls, like making the focus about the boys in an odd way instead of, where the heart of the story is, which is about this team of girls. But it ended up being so not that. And as everybody's saying, it's just a storyline that helps push the heart of what the show is, and that helps bring to light all of these issues that we're talking about, which is really important. So I really I appreciate the way that they did it, and I think that it plays really well on screen with giving a really like fun new angle to the story while not detracting in any way from where it's coming from its heart, from the relationships that were already existing.
Yeah, and I mean, coming into this as a viewer already, and so when I got the script, I was like, this just works perfectly in a way that we can kind of acknowledge the patriarchy and kind of just show that women's sports are just as equal and as boy sports in general. So I just think that this was just a step that we can shed a light onto that, acknowledge it, and show that the stereotypes and the social constructs are wrong.
Anyone else on that? Or I want to make sure I don't cut anybody out. I'll move on. So for each of you, a lot is going on with your characters. And again, going back to that table read, I'd love to hear from each one of you. What was the biggest surprise for you about your character? Whether it's a situation, a theme or something, were you surprised? And I'm in my Brady bunch here. Tiana, you're up at the top, so I'm gonna start with you first.
That's a good question. I think with Destiny, I'm always kind of looking for different ways to play her and a different way to kind of take the situations that she's going through and do them in a way that feels different and feels fresh. And I think with her storyline, especially with finding out about her parents in season 1 and that her aunt and her mom had switched, I think I had an inkling that this season would be about kind of taking that next step and trying to figure out who her biological father is and finding out that side of her family. And so I think what surprised me, and I don't want to spoil it, but there is something about finding out that side of her that was definitely a surprise, I think, for Destiny. But I think what surprised me the most was just the way that she handles it and the way that she's really grown this season and the way that she's able to sort of challenge her own perceptions on life and accept that things aren't always going to be as they seem and that it's okay to accept the things you can't change. And I think that for her, that's really the lesson this season.
Absolutely. Sophia, I'm going to go over to you.
Yeah, I think I knew that there was going to be a lot of content relating to Emma's relationship with her dad, which is a given. It was big in season 1 as well. But I really liked how we built a really strong foundation for the relationship. They're living together. She's settled. She has this new group of friends. And now the beginning of season 2 is the question of how can we build on that? How can we go deeper? And I really like that nobody shied away from really getting into it. Emma and Marvin go through a lot this season. And I was really impressed with the writing. John is just so incredible, and he was always pushing to get deeper, always asking me, does this feel right? Does this feel natural? So I really appreciated the whole process, and I love how deep we looked into their relationship. It was really not surface level at all. And so I'm excited to see it. It was really fun to read. I hope it's fun to watch as well, but it's it can be intense at times. And I think I liked that generally this season, we didn't shy away from that kind of discussion about anything, including their relationship and kind of more generally a parental, father-daughter, just kind of general familial relationships that are tricky. So that was, I don't know if it was a surprise, but it was a good feeling, like, yeah, let's get into it kind of thing.
Now, did you know that season 2 you were going to join the team, or was that a surprise?
I think it was a little bit foreshadowed at the end of season 1, but I didn't know. So I kind of got a call right before I left school to come to set saying, we have a little bit of basketball for you this season. I said, okay. but they were really willing to work with me as well to see how it kind of would fit into the storyline. And I think it fit in a really natural, lovely way. And I'm glad that I got to do a little bit.
Yeah, and it definitely puts a whole nother layer on
It's
the
true.
relationship. Yeah, I was really excited to see that. So in my Brady Bunch here, Nell, I'm going to go over to you.
Yeah, I remember when I first spoke to Dean, our lovely showrunner, Dean Laurie, he was like, Louise is gonna move out and she's living in an old folks home. And I was like, what is this show? I had no idea what to expect. And of course, you know, they did an amazing job with it. It wasn't the way that I thought it would be. And it was great to see that she was sort of embarking on this new journey and getting some independence away from her family. And there were sort of big things. I mean, she's a senior and she's going to be graduating, and all of the huge life changes that come with that. So I was just excited to get to do that for sure. Yeah.
And then you have that, and then I'm going to move sideways to Sara. You know, A, there's the issue about don't take my scholarship. B, there's a somewhat competition between the two of you. So Sara, I'd love to hear from you about that dynamic, and then maybe back to Nell about that dynamic and kind of all those challenges.
Yeah, so with Ava, she has kind of this I need to be number one at everything mentality, which is really the main cause as to why Ava butts heads with a bunch of characters on the show, not just Nell's character, although Nell's character is definitely the number one that I feel like we both challenge each other and just clash a lot. So it's a very interesting dynamic to see, especially because every time we're shooting very intense scenes, we're just like making like the most meanest and terrible faces at each other. And then the second that they call cut, I just look at Nell and we just start laughing, or we're just like in like the best, we're like polar opposites as to what we're filming. And then when they call cut, it's just like, we're one big happy family.
Yeah, I think it was cool to see the arc of that relationship, because when it started out, you know, we're both pretty headstrong characters and very laser focused on our sport, hence why we butt heads. So it was nice to see that came around after a bit, and to see them come together, because they are very similar, and not sort of pitting them against each other, and showing that relationship, I thought was really important to see.
We were particularly heartened by that, because what did Madeline Albright say? There's a special place in hell for women who don't support women. So
yeah.
we were really happy to see that as well. So Cricket, what about you?
Hi. I would say Samantha is just kind of a whole different vibe this season. I think we just got to see her so happy-go-lucky last season. And so headed into this season, when I found out she was going to be struggling with a bit of just like junioritis of like being overwhelmed, and then that turning into some real anxiety, I think that I was really excited to portray that. I feel like all these lovely ladies, well, besides Sarah, because she wasn't in season 1, but really got to show like a deeper side the first season. And I was kind of like, okay, I kind of did, but like, I can't wait till I finally get to lean into that. So realizing I was going to get to kind of lean into that and deal head on with like an actual very real problem that maybe people will resonate with. Kind of hope they don't, because it's kind of hard to deal with, but I hope that it can help people be seen and help people realize it is totally okay to ask for help. That is why we have family. That is why we have friends, and people do care, and you're not a failure for asking for help. We all need people. And yeah, I think that's probably my favorite and definitely most like surprising thing. I was like, oh gosh, she's going to face some real stuff this season. Her happy energy was kind of a cover up.
and for us, you know, in looking at family programming, etc., there is very little mention of any kind of mental health, anxiety, etc. So we were really heartened and have a lot of respect for Disney Plus, you know, for actually, you know, incorporating that. So Yvette, over to you. Oh my God, did you know what was coming for you this season?
You know, we all get to have a little conversation, hopefully, with Dean before a season begins. So I knew that we would, that the boys were coming. I knew that I would get to have a lot of time with a special person in Sherilyn's life. I don't want to spoil too much. I don't know when this is going to air. So I was really excited about that because there's a certain dynamic in the Black community that's really wonderful in families and whatnot. So I was excited to be able to show that side of her because she comes, you know, she's loving and she's authoritative. So the maternal side is there, but it's a little different when you add a family aspect to it. So I really got to dive into who she is, and you got to see a little more of her, and I really enjoyed that.
I think that's great. And so one of the things that I was thinking about that most people wouldn't know is, you know, so you show some pranks happening on screen, but is there any of that going on behind the scenes?
Yes, there is a lot of pranks, a lot of funny TikTok ideas, a lot of just like goofing around. And like, I think this season, especially after having such a long break between the first season and this one, we kind of just came into it missing each other. And I think every day we try to just make the most of it. I think one prank that was, I don't know if you know the dance move, the stanky leg. All right. There was one prank we did on our basketball coordinator, Keela Snowden, and it was like a really long day. So like everyone needed just something to cheer him up. And I'm like, okay, guys, go get Keela. So we go to Keela. We're like, Keela, we need you like in the back room. Like, oh my God, something like smells so bad. It smells so bad. Someone leads Keela in and we trap her in the room and all of us are just doing the worst stanky leg you've ever seen. And we're like, you don't smell that? It smells so stanky. Yeah. So little pranks like that here and there, just to like lighten the mood, or definitely we like to have fun.
Anything else anyone wants to share on the prank story?
I definitely love scaring people. I don't know if I did it as much this season, but I definitely got Tiana good last season a few times. So I think, again, just anything to break the day up. They can get long, they can get monotonous. So anything we can do to just like change up the pace is very fun.
Sometimes you'll just catch Cricket and myself like asleep on the floor somewhere on the giant basketball court. We try.
We're sleepers. We are sleepers anywhere, anytime.
Mm-hmm.
So again, the show unpacks a lot of tropes and stereotypes. You know, it's a great reflection of diversity, you know, inclusion. And so what's interesting for us, you know, for me also about the show is, you know, all the character development and all of the arcs. So now that you've had a season under your belt, what has been the response? And I'd love to hear from all of you, from girls, from parents, from teachers, because I believe the show can have a real world impact. And I just checkerboard, I'm going to start with Yvette. Any comments that you've got or anything that has surprised you about someone who's written to you, or, you know, just the impact of your character and the show?
Well, I haven't been surprised by this because I know the heartwarming show that we're creating, but I hear from people a lot that families watch this show together. And I've been saying in all of our press today, it's a little dark right now in the world. And it's kind of nice to know that you're one of the safe spaces that people can find their way to in order to come together and kind of wash off the stink, speaking of stanky leg, to wash off the stink of what the world can feel like sometimes. So it's not surprising. It's heartwarming to know that we created a show that all generations can watch together, and then maybe have a conversation about mental health, or a conversation about where women fit in the world, or LGBTQ situations. I love that we've created a space for that. So not surprising, but wonderful.
That's great to hear. Cricket, what about you?
I would just say, I think it's cool when people come up to us and are just kind of like, you're representing women in sports. Like, I see myself in you guys, and like, or I see my coach in your coach, and we're like, we're sorry about that. But I think just really seeing that, I think like we've been talking about, women's sports can be severely underrepresented. So I think it's very cool that people get to feel represented by having a high school girls team be highlighted.
Absolutely. Sara, what about you?
I mean, I'm kind of coming on new to the show, so I haven't gotten any feedback, I guess, from people saying like, oh my God, you're incredible on the show, because not a lot of people have seen me on the show just yet. But it is very heartwarming to see, because we went to the D23 convention and a lot of fans were just saying how they resonated so much with the show in itself, kind of like how Cricket said, how there's not a bunch of representation of high school girls sports in general. So I just think that it's just so heartwarming and inspiring to see that we are representing such a large community that isn't represented kind of very rarely in the media in itself.
And just, I want to take a beat before going in now, just for everyone at home who may not know what D23 is. Do you want to explain what that is, or anybody wants to explain what that is?
It's kind of like Comic-Con for Disney. So it's the place where Disney comes out and celebrates everything new that's coming out, and it's all in one place. You can buy merchandise, you can watch new trailers. It's really a fun weekend in Anaheim.
Thank you for that. So now what about you with your character, the impact, any feedback?
I mean, the impact, I never, of course, you know, we're grateful to have this show on such a huge platform like Disney Plus, and it you don't realize it until, of course, people start coming up to you. And I live in New York, and I'm always like New Yorkers sort of stick to themselves, and I've had little girls on the train like scream, and it's bizarre for me to say that they look up to you so much, and to have someone like that to look up to is incredible that we're showing that. And I think even on set, we had one of the lovely COVID nurses who administers our tests every day. She came up to me once and she knocked on my trailer door, and she said that she had a daughter who was 10 who loved the show. And she said, you know, Louise is my favorite character. And she started playing basketball, and she recorded a video of her where she is dribbling the ball, and she says like, Mom, do I look like Louise? And it was surreal. Like it was wild to see. And I got to meet her actually at the wrap party, which was amazing. And she just loved it. So anything where you can sort of represent that for someone and have that response is incredible. Yeah.
That's great. Tiana, what about you?
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest thing that I love about our show is just the way that we show these relationships with these girls, and we really give them depth. And we show girls who are not afraid to have bad days, who are not afraid to, go for what they believe in, even if it makes them a little abrasive or that they have to infiltrate a whole brand new friend group. And so I think the biggest thing that I always hear is kind of what we were saying about girls who are like, oh my gosh, it's so nice to see girls in basketball, or they really relate to our characters, or they relate to our show, or they, relate to their coach being like our coach. And I think for me, what I really love about our dynamic as a group is that we are always supporting each other. And I think for young girls growing up, that is so crucial for them to see, and for them to know that, you don't have to go to high school and believe in cliques and believe in all of these kind of stereotypical tropish sort of roles, and I think for us, it's like, for me, this season of Big Shot really represents family, represents being there for one another between the good and the bad. And I'm really glad that we're able to kind of set that example and be those role models for girls watching the show, and to see, to love one another and to be there for your friends.
Absolutely. Sophia, what about you?
Yeah, gosh, I so love what everybody has said. It kind of made me a little bit emotional. Like I don't know these stories. It's so, so, so nice to hear them. I think for me, what's really special about Big Shot is that it has not only the representation of women in sports, but what Tiana was talking about, the support, because it's so much easier and so much more common to have one or the other, a show about girls supporting each other, but it's just kind of like a high school show, or a show about sports, but they all hate each other kind of thing, or they're pitted against each other. And it's really rare that you find them intersecting in any way, where you find a show about women's sports and a show where the women love each other and support each other and come together. And as Tiana was saying, like through the good, through the bad. And so that's what really struck me when I first signed on to the show, and something that stayed true to it throughout the first season and will continue to stay true to it throughout the second season. So I'm just grateful to be part of it. It makes me so happy that it's reached so many people. I think the theme of family and growth and warmth, like these are just such happy things. And I'm as Yvette said also at the beginning, you know, right now it's really, really nice to have a show that families can watch together and get to see themselves represented and get to see people loving each other on screen and get to love people in their own life. You know, it's like a hug. It's like a hug. That's what I think. So yes, I'm just very grateful and so happy to know all of you.
Well, you know, we're so grateful, and our tagline is, if she could see it, she could be it. And I think Big Shot is such a beautiful example of that from every aspect of it. And all of you are so wonderful and bring so much depth and warmth to your characters. I know we're at time. We could have spent another hour together. So I just want to say thank you so much. Everybody at home, October 12th, Big Shot, we got to watch, get the food, the popcorn, the chicken fingers out. And I do hope all of you will stay connected to us. And we're really excited to see season 2. So thank you so much.